Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to look at the worst mistakes that an MFF player can make in 2023. Starting us off with number 10. Despite using the glorious Morbius and his compatriots, one of the worst things you can do in Marvel Future Fight is when you're playing World Boss Ultimate, or especially World Boss Legend as it gets more and more difficult, and you happen to die on a particular stage, rather than just finishing the fight, you accidentally press that button right there and you consume crystals to restart the stage. Now this is number 10, so it's going to get a lot worse. This one could be worse. 300 crystals for VIPs, 600 crystals for people who are not high VIPs. It's not that many crystals, but it's like half a uniform at this point, which is pretty brutal. And the worst part is it's right next to the home button. It's way bigger than the home button. It's more centered than the home button, and there's no like extra button. There's no confirmation screen. As soon as you press that button, that blue button, I'm not gonna show you. As soon as you press it, you lost the crystals. You get to restart the fight, but you lost the crystals. So this is one of the old vestige things in Marvel Future Fight that I think is one of the most toxic and predatory, and unfortunately it is one of the worst mistakes you can make. Following up that idea of spending crystals refreshing World Boss Ultimate or World Boss Legend when you die is the idea that some people still have, that you should use crystals to craft for very rare items. Now this is a much more difficult screen to get to. You have to go to the crafting, you have to go over to upgrade items, you probably choose the cards, and then you have to press that small button down there in the corner. But there's nothing worse than being like, oh, I found this really good idea, burning 500 crystals, only to be told, dog, you just wasted 500 crystals. Now this doesn't happen very often, thankfully. It's probably much less often than the one we just showed in number 10, but the fact that this is still in the game obviously appeals to whales, sure, but then the desperate people who don't know any better, or who accidentally press that and don't realize what's going on until later. And this is why we always tell players, don't play MFF when you're a little tipsy or your eyesight is a little blurry, because you might end up making a mistake like this, and then you're gonna wake up the next day wondering, where did all my crystals go? At number 8, we have something that isn't actually that bad of a mistake to make, but it's just plain mean. And I'm talking about kicking people from your lobby in GBR for completely arbitrary reasons. Even if you can clearly carry them, I still see people, and I still hear about people kicking other players because they don't like their teams, because they're scared that they're gonna do a lot of damage, and I want to be first really badly, so you got a tier 4, I'm gonna kick you, and all this goofy stuff. This one wasn't actually supposed to make the top 10, but I just wanted to put this one in the video to encourage those of you who are kicking people from GBR. All right, I'm gonna leave this menu because I feel really bad about what I'm doing. But for those of you that are kicking people from GBR, just stop kicking people from GBR, or just play by yourself, or just play with people that you invite. If you're gonna open up public lobbies, just accept whoever you get. And if you're not strong enough to be able to carry on your own, probably don't open random public lobbies hoping to get a really strong player, because that's likely not going to happen. And in the meantime, you're going to be frustrating a lot of other players who are looking for help and aren't able to get it. Coming in at number 7 on the worst mistakes an MFF player can make in 2023, we have the idea of using CCF, or for level 70 to 80s, Life Seed, to rank up a character from 60 to 70. Now, of course, there are some players out there, there's always some bigger whale who do have enough CCF or do have enough Life Seed to where this isn't a problem. But for the vast majority of players, this is not a good idea. And especially when it comes to Life Seed, although I can't show you that screen, it's basically identical to this one, except there's Life Seed here instead of CCF. It's a disaster. It's such a bad idea because there's nowhere in the game besides the shop where Life Seed is guaranteed to drop. It's not guaranteed anywhere else, not like CCF. And I still see players saying that because they didn't want to spend tier 3 materials, they used their Life Seed to upgrade their character, Thor or Iron Man or whatever, from level 70 to level 80, and it breaks my heart. Be very careful with these resources. The devs have been super greedy and stingy with giving these out. They don't even appear in events yet. It's absolutely bonkers, unless the event is like the last one where you can open a chest with a chance to get 25 or 50. Like the drops are absolutely horrendous. So I would strongly recommend, and I think going into 2023, this is one of the biggest mistakes you can make unless you have a massive surplus, in which case you're the person just running through MasterCard and Visa. And really, there isn't a mistake you can technically make besides your inevitable crushing debt. The sixth worst mistake an MFF player can make in 2023 relates mostly to black antimatter and cosmic cube fragments, but also to the stones you use to upgrade and open different types of dimension rifts. Now, we've all played MFF at different points of time, when we just wake up, when we're super alert, when we're on the bus. Maybe some of you play when you're tipsy. But the reason why I always tell you guys, please, the tipsier you get, the more you should stay away from this game, is because I've heard so many horror stories of people going to this page, and then accidentally doing something crazy like hitting the max button. And if you see how insane this is, just one more button. If I press just one more button, I will burn like 75% of my gold. And the worst part about this is this doesn't even end. If you click this, this is only halfway through the nightmare, because then you have to dismantle it later on. And the same thing goes for CCF. You can easily burn hundreds of millions of gold with no confirmation screen. There's no extra screen being like, hey buddy, are you sure you want to do this? Because the game should know there's no way I need 583 rank 2 CCF. There's just no way that that's a thing. But there's absolutely no confirmation in the game. So you have to be super duper careful. Please don't press this button. It's literally a 2-part nightmare, and there's no biscuit and there's no gravy. Not as bad for players is the Dimension Rift stones, because you do use them and because the cost is much less, and generally speaking, you're not going to have so many stones that upgrading them would be that bad. But as you can see here, okay, 1,000,000 gold. Okay, here I can't even, well, it doesn't even, you have to go over here. You actually have to press another one. You have to click auto combine, and you'd have to go like this. So there's a lot more buttons involved. As you can see, instead of being like 2 buttons, it's like 5. And this is a lot less gold. It's only 3 million instead of like 300 million. But I wanted to include this one here because it sort of follows the same principle of accidentally combining all of the materials you have into a higher level. Coming in at number 5 for the worst mistakes an MFF player can make in 2023. And somehow I keep seeing this pop up. Buying uniforms for characters that you don't have. Now, yes, if you have the character, go nuts, whatever. But I still see people buying uniforms for characters that they don't have, and then being surprised when they can't use the character, or when the game suddenly gets boring for them because they're just staring at the uniform that they don't have, or the uniform that they have for the character that they don't have, and they can't enjoy it. There really is no good reason to be buying uniforms ahead of time for characters that you don't have, unless you're going to be getting the character very shortly, or unless you have some sort of desire to torture yourself and you use Marvel Future Fight as the way to torture yourself. I understand that there's a lot more seasonal and FOMO uniforms nowadays than there ever were, so I get it that there's a lot out there that can sort of bait you into buying it, but really it just doesn't work. It does not work, and it really is a frustrating thing to see, because these players spend the crystals and then they have nothing else to do, and they're just staring at literally like an empty vessel, and this is tragedy. This is pure tragedy. So yeah, please don't do this. This is one of the worst mistakes you can make. Absolutely. Obviously, this goes hand in hand with buying uniforms when they're not on sale, etc. Buying uniforms for characters that you're not going to be building up for a long time. Even for uniforms that are not FOMO, I still see people being like, I haven't unlocked Jean Grey's epic quest yet, but should I buy her uniform? What do you buy? It's like buying the tires on a car before you even got your driver's license. What do you need the extra tires for? What do you need the rims for, my dude? You don't even know if you can drive yet. The fourth worst mistake an MFF player can make in the game in 2023 is one that I see all too often, and I am actually guilty of at times. And it looks something like this. You get a CTP, it's great, you think it's really strong, you go to a character that you really like, and oh, I'm going to give this CTP to this character, it's going to be so great, you equip it, and then you play the character and you're like, oh, hold up, hang on, this is not working. Stop the jazz music. I did something wrong. And now you have the very unpleasant journey of having to unequip said CTP because it no longer works on the character, it never worked on the character, or because you have to give it to another character. There's so many reasons why this can be the case, but this is probably one of the most repeated mistakes an MFF player makes, and it's the one that the devs monetize the most, which is why there's still a massive fee associated with unequipping CTPs from characters. Now, we do have a discount that comes around every month or so, but there's still tons of players who don't even have the patience to wait for the discount, so they spend the full amount. And again, this is like the refresh in World Boss Legend. Imagine you're doing that once a week. You're putting yourself way behind on other things that you could be spending crystals on just because you're making these mistakes. So that's why we make content about CTPs, and that's why we really urge players to be very, very careful, because you see videos where content creators are roasting players. You see Beast Mode roasting players, and me and stuff like that, where they have just the most absurd CTPs equipped on characters, and you're like, what was this person thinking? And that's exactly it. They weren't thinking, and it only really benefits the marketing team. Number 3 probably hurts me the most on this list, because I hear about it so frequently, and it's such an easy thing to fix or change, and yet it still happens so frequently. You do your job, you log into the game every day, you're diligent, you collect your tokens, or maybe you forget to collect your tokens or whatever, and then the end of the event comes and you forget to spend them. And then you're like, hey, where's the shop, guys? Where's the shop? And the players are like, there's no more shop, bro, the shop closed. And you're like, what do you mean the shop closed? I still have my tokens. And then it starts to dawn on you, and there's a sinking feeling in your stomach, and you realize that you can't use the tokens anymore. All that time you spent logging in, collecting the tokens, diligently playing the game, all for nothing. This is honestly one of the biggest mistakes that players make, and it's probably one of the leading reasons for players quitting or taking breaks from the game, because it's so frustrating to see the tokens there and not be able to use them. My advice to you is to just log in more. I don't really have good advice. That's what makes this one so painful, because it's so easy to make this mistake. I've made this mistake before. I know there's plenty of players watching that have made this mistake as well. I feel for you because it sucks. Obviously, the devs could change things by giving the shop a 1 or a 2 day buffer, so it's open a couple of days after the event is over for you to spend your tokens. A lot of other games do that, but hey, in lieu of the devs suddenly growing a heart 2 sizes too big like the Grinch and deciding that they're going to do all these good things for the players, we have to look out for each other, and that's why I'm making this video. And the runner-up for the worst mistake an MFF player can make has to do with your comic cards. Now, we know how important comic cards are because you guys all watch my videos and you hear about how you can buy a CTP or you can get a CTP for one character, or you can build your cards for your entire roster, and they affect your characters from now until the end of the game. So if you make one upgrade on your cards, it upgrades 250 characters. We all know how important that is, and we all know how powerful cards are. So we also know how dangerous it can be to be on this page and be like, there's literally just one tab protecting you from the wrong page, where you're either going to re-roll your 3 random stats and potentially brick your card and ruin its quality, or you're 1 screen away from re-rolling all of your crafted stats, destroying your Pierce, ruining, like, you could be literally, this mistake here for some accounts could cost you thousands of dollars. This one mistake, if you just accidentally go on this page instead of going on this page. And believe me, you think this isn't an easy thing to do. You think, oh, it's so obvious, Alex. These 2 screens are pretty similar. They're not that dissimilar. Like, there's yellow and then there's blue background and there's a little corner thing and the cards are a little bit different. There's not that much different here. Again, playing MFF Tipsy is a very dangerous game, my friends. Drink responsibly and craft combine your cards sober. Hey guys, I know we're talking about the biggest mistake that an MFF player can make in 2023, but I just wanted to take a quick break to roll an ISO 8 set for Karnak. So I'm just going to be spending 200,000 gold every time I press these two buttons, and it's no big deal. You know, just give me 1 second. Hang on. You're saying that this is the #1 biggest mistake that an MFF player can make? Spending gold recklessly? I don't need an ISO 8 set for Karnak? But the ISO 8 discount's coming and it's going to be half off. All right, fine. That's cool. I'll just upgrade all of his skills right now. That's only 500,000 gold. That's only another 1,000,000 gold. No worries, guys. Yeah, 2 million. Yeah. And now I'm just going to do this for another 250 characters until I don't have any more gold. And then I'm going to wonder how this game's so difficult and how I don't have extra gold to build up my favorite characters because I've been spending it all on reckless stuff. Unfortunately, this is the #1 biggest mistake you can make in Marvel Future Fight in 2023, and it's spending gold recklessly. And despite all of the advice that you get from all these different corners of the internet, it's really easy to mismanage your gold in Marvel Future Fight. I have to be super disciplined just to stay where I am on gold, and believe you me, I still make a lot of mistakes. There's so many different game modes and so many different examples that come to mind where there's content that can drain away your gold in an instant, whether you're upgrading characters, rerolling World Boss Legends, even rerolling things like Timeline Battle, getting trapped into the Collector's Vault that's not personal and getting sucked into that one. There's so many different game modes that can just slurp away all your gold and leave you without even a receipt for the transaction. So you have to be super duper careful and super duper cautious when spending gold and really think ahead, is this a good investment, especially if you're spending that gold to build up native tier 3 characters or grind your way through epic quests, because you know, before you know it, you can be drained on gold, and gold basically is the currency that runs the game. It's the gasoline that goes in your car. Without gold, you basically can't play Marvel Future Fight. There's so many things you can't do, and there's so many things that you can do, but they're going to be horribly unoptimized to the point that it would be kind of miserable. Like playing World Boss and not being able to refresh it all the time. I know it's a VIP perk, but having to play whoever my World Boss of the day is would absolutely suck, and it would ruin my ability to farm materials at a fast enough rate to even sort of keep up with the release of characters. And that's just one example. So I strongly recommend you going into 2023, if you're still playing Marvel Future Fight, which, yeah, I am, be very careful with your gold. And if you're going to spend it on something, make sure you take a look at the events coming up and you combine your spending habits with the discounts, because it's very costly otherwise, and it can basically ruin the fun that you have in the game. So hopefully these tips have been helpful. Don't make any of these mistakes in 2023. Thank you so much for watching. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.